Why do you stay up all night? A question so trivial. Well, friends, be careful with reading Kierkegaard and more so existentialism in general. It sometimes drives you awfully close to nihilism. While personally I found Kierkegaard's writings to be quite alleviating and Dostoevsky's novels to be even faith-inspiring, existentialism has had a contradictory effect on my worldview. The illusions that Nietzsche brought down and the answers that Camus provided to many of my questions held up great for a while. However, when certain circumstances and experiences piled up and shoulder-checked my personal philosophy, it all came crashing down and left me free-falling into an abyss of nihilism. Suddenly, questions like this one started lining up. Everyday experiences that once were innocent and fun became stained and infected with questions raised by the very same Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Camus, Hesse, and Dostoevsky. Before I could blink, I started to sympathize with the answers of Rodion Raskolnikov or Ivan Karamazov, disregarding the endings of the books and the moral conclusions Dostoevsky had come to. I started to be filled with doubt. Perhaps indeed everything is permitted. It would appear to be a thin line between existentialism and nihilism. That explains to me the misunderstanding of Nietzsche. Anyways, getting back to the question at hand, how does one, in a state of mind as I described before, answer this sort of triviality? It is despair. Let me explain. I would like to invite you to follow me along a train of thought. Suppose for a minute that we as human individuals so-called live in our tiny little existence. Our attention is limited to the size of half a phone screen and our consciousness expands only to the room we're in, if even that. It depends on the room. Furthermore, we exist surrounded by an incomprehensible darkness of the cosmos. We ignore almost all the details of the immediate surrounding material world. How much we ignore of the spiritual, inner, transcendent, and so on is incalculable at best. This limitation is, of course, natural. How else would one be able to function? So, if you're still following me along in my, to be fair, one-sided but nevertheless tragic painting of a human, he is all but a tiny conscious ant stuck in an existence he cannot fathom to comprehend. This short train of thought and its infinite leading alleyways, my friends, is despair. A fair question arises: what does this have to do with staying up all night? You might make the honest mistake of thinking that this harrowing despair relates only to the specific and tragic person I have described. Naturally, someone like this wouldn't be able to ever sleep. But sadly no, what I'm proposing is that this despair is deeply internalized and subconscious in every single human being. Now, this proposition very well might necessitate a rejecting reaction. I understand that I am bringing to light what is not at all welcome being brought to light. In any case, for this essay, I must continue my focus on the phenomenon of despair itself, disregarding its remedies or solutions. Recently, I had a distinct memory come up that brought me to writing about this exact question. I remember that when I was a teenager, I would constantly stay up all night and would only go to bed when I saw the first glimpses of dawn. This might be relatable to a lot of you. During summers, this would just be my regular sleep schedule. There might have been more reasons for going to bed at 4 or 5 a.m., but looking back, what grabbed my curiosity was the comfort that first sunlight would provide me. It just felt wrong falling asleep while it was still dark out. Furthermore, I would fall into quite a depressed and demoralized state when fall came and staying up until sunrise was just not feasible anymore. Retrospectively, I believe this behavior was the manifestation of despair. The existential dread that plagued my teenage years all came screaming back to me. Why would 15-year-old me only go to bed after sunrise? Well, because he was not sure the next day would come. He was anxious about the sun coming up. What if it won't? He was restless during the night because in his mind, how could anyone be calm, relaxed, and honestly ignorant about their existence? Who said the next day will come? Do I exist when I am asleep? Where does our existence begin and end? Why isn't the world screaming in panic and everyone just goes about their business? And so on and so on. These kinds of questions only pile up and eventually lead to Nietzsche's proposed abyss. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you, so amazingly accurately Nietzsche wrote. The night is a symbol of this darkness and uncertainty of our conscious existence. All of this seems to have brought me to the conclusion that many of us exhibit despair by staying up all night. Maybe that's why it mixes so well with excessive alcohol use, another great embodiment of despair. One can imagine how this thinking has ruined any kind of nightlife for me. How can one knowingly or even purposefully participate in despair? Kierkegaard arguments that this is a sin. My reaction to this realization seems to indicate that I agree. I have warned you beforehand to tread lightly with these thoughts. I have missed these warnings and stumbled right into the abyss of existential despair repeatedly. I do not know if these questions lead anywhere. I myself seem to be still on the journey of finding out the hard way. For some reason, I cannot get over my intuition that there is something beyond these questions, that this intellectual journey perhaps will take me somewhere meaningful, and I will be able to withstand the drive through the hell of nihilism. If you're going through hell, keep going, said Churchill. However, I will stop here and leave exploring the meaning of nihilism itself for another time. I set out to describe despair itself and bring to attention the so-called menial, everyday manifestations of it. I hope I succeeded. Happy despairing.